Hello and welcome to Two Maggies Up Top, that Premier League podcast fueled by the Magnums. You know, we're back again, episode 12, back with the boys. If you don't already know, I'm your host, Big Kes, aka Kes Ferdinand, aka James Rodriguez. Yeah, come on, playmaker and that, you know the thing. To my left, we've got my co-host, you know the name already, is Big Lows, aka David Luiz.
I'll take that one.
You're happy with that?
Have you heard some good ones? I don't know. I'm about to take heat with some of these. Listen, I don't think anything gets worse than El Nene, innit?
What are you saying, Luz?
I'm good, man. Good to be here once again.
The no trim and that in the week.
Listen, I thought Low Salah was coming in it. That's got that no trim.
I was hoping for the low Salah. Yeah, all good.
Good, man. Good.
Come on.
Love to be back again every Tuesday.
Come on.
It's just nice, man.
It is, man. I'll be looking forward to this. Guys, it gives me great pleasure to welcome a special guest to the show. We'll get onto the team later, but the special guest to the show.
Right colour, man. Wrong match.
If you blink, you'll miss him. It's my boy Flash, aka Flash the Young.
Wow, that's disrespect. Even for me, that's disrespect. You've been talking about that, innit?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I want to give a United man as well.
Listen,
Hey, Flash. You say, man, you good?
yeah, I'm good. I'm could be better after that one, but yeah, not too bad.
Listen, man, welcome to the pod. Thank you very much for coming on. Like I said, the shirt's a bit... Nah.
We'll get to that.
But we will get to that, man. We will get to that. Like I said, thanks for coming on, man. We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Long overdue.
Yeah, it's long overdue. And you come at a time where your team's top of the league. So,
And we're not talking too
the last time I had a United fan on, you man went out the Champions League. Good thing you're not playing tonight for you, because bad omen and that. But yeah, to be fair, you're in a good position. So, as you know, in the group chat, a few Man United fans be talking up and that. So, this is your platform to talk your thing.
And I said all I've said all week is that let me just hold it until today. You know, none of this mad crowd talking real. So that's what I'm here to do.
Let's go, man. So let's jump in, boys. To be fair, we're jumping in where I want to start, really. Man United legend, Wayne Rooney retired to become the Derby manager. He literally cut his career short on the day the job became available, and he's taking the job full time, man. For me, obviously, it's a great opportunity for Wayne, man. Derby seems like the place where young English managers start their careers off. Obviously, Frank Lampard was there as well. I just find it a bit mad because obviously he signed there in the summer on a player-coach contract.
Yeah.
They've sacked the manager, and he's now just retired, like mid-season. Good move. What do you reckon?
I think from a football point of view, you got to look at your cards that you've got and the hand that you've got, and I think it's a smart move. Talking a business point of view.
Smart move for him or for
100%.
Yeah.
From a club point of view, like you've said already, you know, it's not a guarantee that because you're a great player, you're going to be a great manager. We can argue Lampard's success rate. He's done well at Derby. At Chelsea, it's been questionable so far, but for him to be even anywhere near that job, you know, he must be showing some signs. So I think it's a risk that they're probably willing to take, but from Wayne Rooney's point of view, it's another 10 years, you know, at least of managing to some degree, as long as it doesn't go massively wrong.
Yeah. I just think for Wayne Rooney, it's a great move. To start at Derby, as Lampard found out, it's a great stepping stone and a great place to start. From Derby's perspective, I do find the move a bit mad, if I'm being honest. You've sacked Philip Cocu because he's not performing in the Championship, to then bring in a player who's literally just retired on the day. I mean, for me, for Wayne Rooney, it's a win-win, in a sense, because you fail there and it's like, well, listen, poison challenge, it's like, whatever. You do well and you launch your career. But from Derby's perspective, I don't know. Like, I don't know if Rooney's ready to retire this season. Like,
for me, I think this was always in the what's the word?
Pipeline.
Always in the pipeline for Rooney. I think this was always going to happen for me. And for Philip Cocu, he just didn't have the Championship cheat code that Lampard had from his season. But you know, you never know what can happen for Rooney. I think one, it's probably a good time for him if he is going to retire.
Yeah.
Listen, he's better than Derby. We know that. Even then, he was still better than Derby. Even when he went to America, he was better than playing in MLS, right? So for me, it's a great opportunity for him because there's no expectation this year either.
Yeah,
so if he comes at the league, and we know what the championship's like as well, he can still get in the top 6.
Yeah.
Because it's so up and down that league.
Yeah.
There's no expectation. As long as they don't get relegated, he's calm.
You also don't really know what's going on behind closed doors because he's obviously he was a player there. Was he captain?
He was player coach.
He was
player coach.
Yeah,
But from the standards that he set on the pitch, maybe they've looked at it and gone, you know, Philip's not doing the job. He's lost the respect of the dressing room. Whereas Rooney's maybe got that respect from the players because he has been a player, and they've looked at it from that point of view. And I think from that side of it, I think if you've got the respect of the players, there is a degree where you can learn on the job, if that makes sense.
Do you think the board have gone like, this season's a bit of a write-off, we're too good to get relegated, we can afford to take a bit of a risk with Rooney, and we know what he's like in terms of his history, his kind of his legacy. Yeah. So have they written off and it's been like, yeah, you know,
I actually think that there was some contractual issues there where they brought in Rooney to be a coach under Philip Cocu, and that's in his contract, you be a player coach and whatever. But then you sack the manager. Now, if you bring in a new manager to take you up the league, he may want to bring in his own coaching staff. So if the new manager turns around and says,
100.
I don't want Wayne Rooney as a coach, I want mine. You know what I mean?
If he's on a big bag, isn't he? To
Yeah. So then I think that they're in a predicament where you can't really get rid of him because he's contracted to be a coach for the duration of his contract, and bringing in someone. So I think they were sort of backed into a corner because I don't look at it for even. I'm not even boiling. Wayne Rooney, top quality player. There's some players you look at where you think, right, he's going to go on to be a manager. Wayne Rooney's not even one of them dons that I was looking at thinking, I don't know.
Well, it's true though, because it all stems from me, I've got a question to ask you in a minute, it all stems from me when, remember Wayne Rooney's street strike?
Yeah.
This guy couldn't speak on camera, fam. This guy couldn't speak on camera.
That's my point.
So I was always thinking, how is he going to get his message across? Does he not have the knowledge? No doubt he has the knowledge. He's been managed by one of the greatest managers ever.
Yeah.
Right? How is he going to get that across? Obviously, it could change. We don't know.
It could change.
You know, his hair might change, so it could change. But I've got a question for Flash is, I know we spoke about him as a manager, but as a player, what's the one memory you have of Rooney? When you think of Rooney, what's the one memory you think? Because I know mine, and I'm not even a Man United fan.
There's two for me.
Go on.
I don't know if one's just because it tickled me a little bit, but the first one has to be the City goal, the bicycle kick. It's the best goal, whether you look at it from a technical point of view, but also the occasion.
Context,
Against City, against your rivals, you score a bicycle hit, winner. And for the other one is the celebration that he did after, I don't know if you remember, on social media where he got knocked out.
Yeah.
That to me was
because
the thing is for me is that it was obviously out there, he'd been sparked by one of his teammates, and to have some people might take that the wrong way, but he's kind of used it and made a joke out of it. They're the two big things for me. But yeah,
I mean, it's funny you mentioned Rooney because for me, obviously, we don't know what Rooney's like behind the scenes and that, but I look at Rooney from what I see in the media, and I had that same thought process that for me, he wasn't the best communicator in terms of like the way he speaks to the media. He might be completely different behind closed doors, so I just couldn't imagine him leading the dressing room as gaffer. Just from even when he was doing interviews this season for Derby, he was still talking like a player, which he was. How well he makes that transition, I mean.
I understand what you're saying, but I'd argue the point that sometimes, and again, we can get back to the Lampards and the Gerrards of the situation. At what point, as a current player, do you look at it and go, "It's Wayne Rooney. I'm gonna listen to him."
But this is my thing, and that's a very valid point because I said the same thing about Lampard the other day, where I feel a lot of young players now are looking up to Lampard as what a great player he is, what someone to learn from, and that's why. So he has that initial respect. But my thing is, when the shit hits the fan, and things are not going so well, and what you're saying doesn't seem to be making sense to people, what then gets you out of that situation? Because I think even for me, I look at Rooney and I think to myself, you go in there, you got the dressing room straight away.
Okay.
People playing around you.
Let me ask you a counter question to that then.
Go on.
Who's the best manager in the world at the moment? I'll let you pick. There's probably a couple, but
yeah, I mean
you've got to be looking at Klopp, Guardiola.
Guardiola.
So what happens if that happens to them? Are people questioning them?
No, because you look back on what they've done in the past, and I think that
like Rooney's done.
No, but as manager, so Rooney's now a manager. So that's what I'm saying. If you look back at Lampard and Rooney and certain guys, what you're looking back to is what they've done on the pitch. But with Klopp and those sort of guys, it's like, okay, he was manager of Dortmund. He took over. He's built them up. You can see what he's done.
Yeah.
So
the point I was more alluding to is that it's more so I'd probably say it's more angled at Guardiola because he was a player and he actually was a decent player.
Yeah.
They all had to have that first, that kind of, you know, that bedding in situation.
Yeah.
Guardiola didn't just rock up to Barcelona and go, let's do this.
Right.
Honestly, I think you got to start somewhere, and I think Pep has had a different start, by all means. But my thing is that when we look at where Rooney is and what I guess what his team is, and let's be honest, it's an average championship team. Do players look at Rooney and go, Wayne Rooney, a bit like Lampard, and then when he gets to Chelsea, it's like, okay, you're a Chelsea legend, but we're still on the we're making
I
the
think
same
when he
level.
gets to Chelsea, but then I think when it's just things are not going well,
yeah.
I think that's when the questions start to
People
come.
go, you ain't got the experience kind of thing.
I would argue the success he had at Derby as well would give him a little bit of weight as well.
His success of being what?
Yeah,
They were decent. Bear in mind he was his first. He's taken over. Maybe not the biggest team in the world, but he's taken over a club that they performed well under him.
To be fair,
I'm gonna find you if you didn't listen to last week's episode.
Not to spend too long on but I think Lampard. I think it's subjective as to how well he done it at Derby. Because
No, I agree. He had
a great team there, and they didn't really achieve promotion with their objective.
But for a manager in his first job, that's what I'm giving him a little bit of. Bear in mind, it's Chelsea, so I'm happy to state it, but credit where credit's due.
Fair.
You know, you look at the Guardiola situation and just using him because he is such a good manager.
Yeah.
If you put him in a scenario where he's managing Derby in his first club, is he doing the same? It's hard to say. And when you gauge as well that Guardiola was a great player, but Rooney, Lampard, Gerrard, they were legends.
Yeah.
And leaders as well.
And they're leaders.
Yeah.
There is some question that would say that they could be better managers because if they get it right from a tactical point of view, the respect they have because of who they are can also add to that. Whereas at the moment, the likes of Guardiola and Klopp are purely going off of the fact that, and again, I'll use Klopp as this example because I don't know much about him as a footballer. I know he played, but he's purely respected off of his managerial experience. If you added to that he was a great player as well.
Yeah, that's a fair point, to be fair. I mean, going from one Premier League legend to another, Jack Wilshere sounds at Bournemouth. I know not in the Prem, but he was a free agent after getting released from West Ham. And I just want to just literally say a couple words on Jack Wilshere, because for me personally, as an Arsenal fan, Jack Wilshere coming through the ranks as a youngster was potentially one of the best young English talents I'd seen in a long time. For one reason or another, injuries and whatnot, his career hasn't panned out as you'd have expected. But I think hopefully at Bournemouth he can, I mean, he's 29 now, 28, 29.
Yeah.
Hopefully at Bournemouth he can kick on and I don't want to say get to the heights. He's a bit, he's older now, but hopefully he can restart his career and
Listen, as a football fan first, can't knock what a great player he was.
Yeah.
However, I question the motive behind this move. I do think it's a big gamble for Bournemouth that, who knows, we could be sitting here in 6 months' time.
Big gamble?
As a free agent?
Bro, he's a free agent, bro.
Sure,
He spent a year on loan there as well.
Is he on a pay-per-play contract?
Probably. We don't know his contract till I did.
So you're right then. So let's put that on the table then. Let's argue that he's not, right? He's costing them money weekly, right? No, listen to me. I argue that it's just the last farewell bit of money in the bank. I just think that, listen, I'm not knocking him as a player.
He's boying it, because if this was a United player,
you question his hunger.
We kind of discussed this off camera, but the situation for me is that I argue that if you had that many injuries, you're not short of a bob or two. For me, I don't understand what the motivation is for Jack Wilshere to go and play for Bournemouth right now, because he didn't do it at West. Yeah, but he didn't do it at West Ham. Argue whether he cost them 10p or 10 mil, is he going to play
at Bournemouth?
At Bournemouth.
Not from a quality point of view.
Bro, you just listen. If he can stay fit, whatever his contract looks like,
Look,
we don't know what his
point.
contract looks like.
No, that's my point though.
If he stays fit, but don't sit there, because you've been sitting there with an injured Eric Bailly, keep talking about what he was like at Villarreal. He's had 5 games now, and you're acting like that
But listen,
he's the best baller going.
No.
So more time.
But the first point I'll make is I've said the same thing about Bailly and I said about Wilshere.
I can say the same about Andy Carroll though.
I'm not questioning the quality. Bailly's a great centre back. However, if he continues to have seasons like he's had, get rid of him. I've said that.
But you're saying that for Man United, you're currently top of the Premier League. But what you're saying now is that for Bournemouth in the Championship, Jack Wilshere's a risk.
Let's just get some context. Since you brought up Bailly, yeah, Bailly went from being at Villarreal, yeah, and playing relatively regularly.
Yeah.
He was a solid player. He got a move to Man United, in which I'll 100% hold my hands up. He's had an injury-plagued time at United, yeah. What I'm simply saying is that what club is this for Jack Wilshere? His 3rd club, 4th.
So
in regards to like the big league, I'm not sure what he was doing before Arsenal, right? Okay, so he went to West Ham, and this was kind of the same sort of move that he had from Arsenal to West Ham. It was that he had a bit of an injury-plagued time, hadn't played for years. Let's be honest. He played kind of 2 or 3 games here, got re-injured, blah blah blah. What I'm saying is that it's kind of the same move to go to Bournemouth as it is from Arsenal to West Ham. I question the motive behind it. It's a big gamble for Bournemouth.
But here's the thing, because what you got to realise is that towards when he moved from Arsenal to West Ham, it wasn't necessarily that he was injured, but it was that Emery wasn't going to use him as much, so he was going to move on to get more game time, right?
Why wasn't he going to use him? Because it wasn't the Tutu's quality. Because arguably, if you look at the team that Emery had, Wilshere was probably one of the best players.
But if we're looking at Emery coming in as manager, and we're talking about Wilshere's quality, Wilshere hadn't produced that quality for a number of years prior to Emery being there. We're not looking at Wilshere having like solid seasons.
Yeah, agreed.
Emery's arrival.
But why though?
Because he was injured at the time. So, but Emery coming in has probably not seen enough of Wilshere to put his hat on Wilshere and say, listen, you're going to be my guy. So what he's saying to Wilshere is, listen, you're not going to be starting for me. So if you want to play football, you've got to move on. So that's why he moved.
So
when he goes to West Ham, he's gone for that reason. He's at West Ham now, and you'd argue that he's not really been injured at West Ham. David Moyes
he's been injured.
He did pick up some injuries.
He's been injured. He's been equally as injured.
But when Moyes came in, he was fit for the last however long since Moyes came in.
I think
been injured.
I think
you're thinking about it too deeply. In my opinion, obviously.
I understand your points that you're saying, but I just think that if you were putting yourself as manager, right, and bearing in mind we've discussed it with the likes of Rooney, etc., the pressure that you're under, right? Are you putting your money on right? I've got Wilshere in my squad.
You don't know how much money he's paying.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about. You're not talking about a cost.
You're not pinning your hat on.
I'm talking about like
reliability.
Yeah, am I putting my career, my job
You're not, though.
on? Of course you are.
But listen, I'll tell you why as well. And also, the last point for me is that this is Jason Tindall as a manager just coming into the job. For me, I don't think it's a massive gamble for you bringing Wilshere as a pay-as-you-play because
you don't know that.
But he's on a 6-month contract.
Listen, 6-month contract.
If that is the case, I agree.
Oh, but sir, alright. Let me not talk too much then.
If he's on a paper play and it's a short-term deal,
even if they pay 20 grand a week, yeah, and he can play half the games to the end of the season with his quality. Say no more. And get promoted.
If it's on a short-term deal and it's a paper play, fair enough. What I'm saying is though is that I'm not sure that is the case. I don't think someone like Wilshere is going to sign for Bournemouth on those terms.
I don't know about paper play, but he's definitely a short-term contract.
Short-term contract, yeah.
But talking about sticky contracts, from one sticky contract to another, Ozil looks like he's finally left Arsenal. And there's a few things I want to say on Ozil because I've seen a lot of people talking in the media and whatnot.
Is this a big gamble for Fenerbahce because he ain't played football? Or?
Do you know what?
That's a good question.
It's a good question. I'll be honest with you, yeah.
Sarcasm, but
I'll take the question, right? Because for me, again, just from a football, not from a Man United point of view, you can't doubt Ozil's quality. Mm-hmm. He's a great player. He does some amazing things. Consistency is a big issue for Ozil. He doesn't do it often enough, right? For me, this should have happened 3 years ago. I don't understand I understand there's obviously politics to it. It's a game of chess. It's him not wanting to give up the money that he's probably on, etc. But what I'm simply saying is that if you're a big team like Arsenal, you shouldn't be allowing. And I'm not trying to be a hypocrite because I don't agree with the way Pogba's dealing with things at the moment either. Just before you throw that one at me, but Ozil is a great player who hasn't contributed towards your team in some time.
Yeah.
I can't actually remember the last time that he played and showed any sign of Ozil. And that's not me digging them, and digging
It's
out
probably
Arsenal.
hard, it's probably hard because he's not played consistently.
And that's my point.
But my point is, and I'm not going to doubt any, but I don't need to say my piece on Ozil. What probably I think is going to mirror what you're going to say, Kes. But for me, just remember what we said about Arsenal, because I've heard a couple of United fans trying to talk stick about Arsenal still not being a big team, right? And talk about Everton and all this being on top of them. So when we get to United and we talk about certain man,
100%.
we're gonna get there.
Yeah,
remember we're a big team, because you remember we heard it here.
Listen.
So that's all I've got to say for on that.
It's all well and good being a big team, right? But how you act is different. And I just personally think if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be looking at things. And again, I'll hold the smoke on Pogba because I've got my view on him as well. Mm-hmm. But what I'm simply saying is that you've let him go on a free. You've actually cancelled his contract. You made no money on him, right? No. You've got rid of him because it's for the best of both parts. Why not do it 3 years ago and move on?
Yeah, I think hindsight's 2020, innit? And I think now you're probably right. Ozil hasn't had a season since 2016 where you can say he was crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
What I want to say was this: Ozil's inconsistency is, I think it's actually facts. Like anyone that's seen Ozil over the last few years, there's no argument against that. What I do think is that Arsenal selling Sanchez and not bringing in someone of that ilk to play alongside Ozil is always going to be selling Ozil short. You know what you're getting with Ozil. Vision, passing quality, yes. But if you're looking for aggressive pressing and hard work off the ball, probably not. You know, I mean, let's be real. Especially not as he gets older, right? So when I look at Mesut Ozil, you know exactly what you're going to get from him. I think him not being in the squad was a complete nonsense. That's complete nonsense. And I also don't like the way that he's being shoved out the back door after years of great service for the club. I don't like that at all. I'm not a fan of that.
It's hard to have a view on that though, because you don't know. He may have been hella disrespectful during the whole process.
You never know.
For me, every team.
But I think he just spoke out on that situation in China, and they literally said, like, listen, it's not good for our image, our brand.
But we don't know that.
We don't know. We're speculating.
I also think there's more to it than that, because whether he's been injured or not, I don't know. For me as well, as a football fan, and I'm not sure if you guys are more aware than I am, but I'm not sure if he's just missed game because he's been injured or because they've just not selected him. No, and that's a problem, because I look at it and I think every team can have at least one. I say every top team can have at least one player that they, you kind of brought up a point about having that aggressive kind of pressing from the front. You can always have that one player that doesn't do a lot of work, but he comes up with these moments of brilliance. And I personally think Ozil could have been that player for you.
But the problem for Arsenal fans is the lack of transparency from the club. So we want to know, what's the issue with Ozil? Because then we can get behind it. But it's the whole thing that footballing reasons. I'm not buying footballing reasons when I'm looking at you playing Joe Willett trying to play number 10.
And when you got to remember as well, Flash, as well, just quickly, I know you want to move on, Kes, is that you look at it from maybe a footballer's perspective, but also as United perspective. And I don't mean that in a negative way, because as an Arsenal fan, we have a different perspective on that situation. Does that make sense? I think we look at it very differently because it becomes more personal for us. Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas you don't have to see it like that, because you see it as a football and you might have a broader vision on that, or a broader kind of like spectrum on it.
I understand what you're saying.
We see it as more internal, bro. We don't even know sometimes what money we got in the summer.
Yeah, but I'm going to say that to you. I think right now, Man United are probably the biggest example of exactly what you're talking about right now. I'm experiencing that right now. I've got a player in my team who I would love to stay, and I think on his day he's probably one of the best players in the league. However, the lack of transparency from the club, and I'm actually hearing more things now that are alluding to it not being as kind of one-sided as what everyone assumed it's going to be in regards to Pogba and his agent. So I understand what you're saying, but I think I'm fully aware of how that goes.
I mean, listen, one thing I want to be on record as saying before we move on is I wish Ozil all the best of luck.
Great player.
For me, like you said, you know what he's like behind the scenes, but from what I've seen, the way he's handled the situation publicly, he's been, you can't question him. Like he's maintained a professional stance.
He'll go down as one of the best players in the league.
So for me, all I want to say on Ozil before we move on is, listen, man, best of luck at Fenerbahce and do your thing, man. Obviously, I'll be watching from afar, but he deserves a bit more respect.
Now they can be 30 on the accumulator.
Yeah, but nah, I think he deserves a bit more respect than he was granted. But subjective, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I mean, last one I want to touch on before we dive in, and this is a brief one. Obviously, it's not really Premier League, but it's sort of Man United link there. Phil Neville getting the Inter Miami job, which was David Beckham's franchise.
Bro, I don't care. I don't care.
Fair. As for it's relevant.
There's relevance to it. I just don't care.
I mean, Phil Neville. We're talking about the managerial thing. We spoke about it last week. He was England manager, England women, manager of the England women's team, and he done an all right job. But this is another great opportunity for him.
Time will tell.
Yeah,
time will tell. I just think it's one of them situations you have to, regardless of whether you rate him or not, you have to put respect on his name because of who he is and what he's done.
Yeah.
You know,
as a player,
of course. But when you look at some of the involvements he's been, Valencia was a bit of a write-off, but I think when you look at what he's done with the women's team, whether you're into women's football or not, I just think that you have to give people respect. You know, whether it's, you're not saying he's going to be the next world beater, but you could be looking at, in 2 or 3 years' time, a top Premier League manager. You don't know.
Well, I think more than respect. I mean, respect's important, but you have to give people time.
100%.
So Phil Neville, I mean, I'll be real for you. I brought it up, but I haven't got too much to say on this because I don't think he's done a terrible job with the England women's team. I didn't know enough about the women's team under Beth Hope to be talk about what they were like and has he improved them.
Listen, you look at it, he's done a great job, but there's always that stigma around, you know, the levels of women's football and things like that. It's when you compare it to managing in a men's league, it is going to be different.
But not only that though, also what he's actually done with England. He's done well in a few tournaments, but didn't win anything really. He won the She Believes.
It sound like Tottenham?
Yeah, well, he did. He won the She Believes Cup, so that's a bit untop.
A bit like the was it Audi Cup?
The Audi Cup.
But I do not care about that move.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, listen, it'd be interesting to see.
It's a watch this space, isn't it?
It's a watch this space, exactly. So, I mean, let's move on anyway. Before we dive into the games, there's been a few results that have taken place since the last time we spoke, before this week's fixtures. So Sheffield United picked up their first win against Newcastle, which, I mean, fair play to them, but I think doesn't mean anything. Man United got the win against Burnley, which confirmed them going top of the league, albeit for 7 days until City. Nah, I'm joking, but yeah.
Listen, to be in and around, that's all I'm
in and around now, fair play, man, and you can't knock that. We'll talk about United in more depth. Everton beat Wolves 2-1, which is a good result to go top 4, which shows how tight the league is. Great result for them. Man City beat Brighton 1-0. Game you expected to win, probably by more goals. Tottenham got a bit Spurs against Fulham, drew 1-1. Fulham, to be fair, in this game, and we'll talk about Fulham later on, look, they played well. I thought, like, we'll talk about Fulham, but I thought they looked decent.
They've got a couple of players that...
Yeah. And Arsenal, 0-0 against Palace, looked toothless. But it was another game unbeaten for them. And once again, we'll talk about Arsenal in a bit more depth.
But I quickly flash. Did you get a trim for the podcast?
Little self-trim. What about you?
I might need you on the replay. My hair just telling me she's not available for the next couple of weeks.
Debuting that.
Big flash. So yeah, I want to dive in, man. The first game I start on is your team. Big top of the table clash. You've got to give you that respect. Liverpool Man United. Now this is a historic fixture. And this season it had some relevance behind it. It was top team playing second team. Liverpool coming into this game weren't in the greatest form. We spoke about them last week with Ken, where we were saying that the goals are dried up, but they're not really conceding, even though they're missing half of their defence. Coming into this game, was this a game you thought you could win with the crisis Liverpool win, or what was you hoping for from this game, Josh?
I mean, first, I think any derby, especially one like Man United Liverpool, you look at it historically, whatever the form table is, you've got to throw it out the window. Based on how we've been playing, and also how Liverpool were lining up with the two central midfielders at defence. Obviously I was optimistic. I hoped that maybe Rashford or Martial may expose one of them. I just think it was quite a cagey game. If you're asking me as a with my football head on and looking at it, I said this to Loeb pre-podcast that beginning of the season you bring this fixture up to me, I'm taking a point. Talking about the former European champions, Premiership champions. It's a point is good for us. And when you add that into the fact that we're now top, I'll take a point. However, I do think we could have done a bit more. I do think the league could be won and lost on games like that, where we just be a little bit more brave and a little bit, go pursue it a little bit more. But I think that I'm happy with a point.
Listen, going to Anfield, they've not lost there in 3 years, 67 games, whatever it is. You got to look at it as a good point. And like you said, if you offered United and Solskjaer the chance or point at Anfield prior to the game, they would have snapped hands off. My issue is this, and this is the thing, I've had a chat with a lot of Man United fans as well, where you can't argue with Solskjaer, because 7 weeks ago, he was. They were calling for his head.
losing the job. Yeah.
So you can't argue the turnaround.
That's football, though. That's how fickle football fans can be. Yeah.
So you got to give him respect for that. Yeah.
Yep. Here's
my issue with Solskjaer. I think this game is a perfect example of what the issue is with Solskjaer. On paper, you go to Liverpool, you draw 0-0. It's a good result.
Mm-hmm.
You stay top of the league. You know, you keep them behind you, whatever. My thing is, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's in-game management is a very big issue, and his credentials as a coach. Because I look at it and I think to myself, okay, cool. On paper, this is a great result. However, any top manager will look at the situation, and even before the game, you see they're playing two midfielders at the back.
Mm-hmm.
The front three, the goals are dried up. You might think there's an opportunity. In the game, when you look at it, and you've nullified them for the first half an hour, you've kept them out. Any top coach for me that's looking to win a title will look at that game and think there's an opportunity here to get at these guys. We've nullified them for how long?
Yeah.
We've repelled them. Now there's an opportunity for us to go forward and win the game, which I think you had that opportunity. If you went for it then, and I get what you're saying, that it's a good result, but my thing is, at what point do you then look at it and think, hold on, we can turn 1 point to 3 here?
No, I fully agree, and listen, let's get this going. I personally disagreed with the starting lineup. I would have started Cavani.
Mm-hmm.
I think he offers something slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
I think that physical presence that he has. You know, there's a lot of talk on Cavani and our move for him, but the guy scored over 200 goals you know, across the leagues. He's a top striker, whether you look at it or not. He's a top striker. Like I said, I'm agreeing in the fact that I think we would have started a different. If it was up to me, we would have started a different lineup. But we got the point. At what point does he change the team and we lose that game?
Yeah.
Because as much as you say, you know, we held them off. Liverpool, considering the changes they made to the team, they were on us. They were pushing for the first sort of 20-30 minutes. We nullified them, but in another scenario where we don't have certain players on, that goes differently. Because I do think as well that, as we mentioned before, Liverpool are one of the only teams that can get away with the changes that they make. Man United couldn't play McTominay and Pogba at centre half.
True.
Arsenal couldn't play Xhaka and El Nini or whoever it is. You know, so I do think we're in a situation where you are looking at a team, and listen, it's hard for me to say this as a Man United fan, but they are where they are for a reason. They're a top team.
Yeah.
Do you know what? When I look at it, like we speak about a lot about good point for United. If you think about the form that Liverpool are in, they can't score goals, right? Regardless, they play in centre midfields. If you've touched upon at the back, it's not a bad point for Liverpool considering the form that United are in. Like we've got to big up. We've got actually, and I hate doing it. Listen, we've got to big up United because they scraped against Burnley, but people that win leagues will have to scrape results.
Games. Yeah, you're right.
So I'm saying,
yeah.
You know, and they go and beat teams. So listen, I don't think it's a bad point for Liverpool, and the gap's still the same, regardless, because United, Liverpool have still got what 18 games to go. Still, it's a long way to go. So for me, I don't think it's a bad point for Liverpool as such, and Liverpool perspective. For United, I think there's points in that game where they probably feel they could have won it.
Yeah.
They could have won it, and they could have that snatch and grab kind of.
The flip side to that is,
and they could have took 3 points.
The flip side.
But as I say, it's still a good point for United. But my question, my kind of input in this is that spoke about United. Good point. It's not a terrible point for Liverpool. It's actually a decent point for Liverpool, considering where they drew to Liverpool, drew to Newcastle, drew to South, whatever their form was the last 3 games before that. It was awful. So considering that they would have been 9 points last year, guaranteed.
Well, this is the thing, and the other thing I think of now is if we're looking at champions and their credentials, the one thing is that, and I'm sure you know this from the years you won at Lyle, if you're not going to win the game, don't lose it.
Yeah.
Right. And what I saw from Liverpool was a game where they dominated the first 25-30 minutes for me.
Definitely.
But then United grew into the game as the game went on, and if anything, United had the best chances to win that game. What I saw from Liverpool was two great saves from the keeper. Well, I saw a great save from Alisson.
Yeah.
That, for me, fair. Like, Man United can win that game and
won the game. Yeah.
And a bit of, I know that's against Rashford too much, but a situation where if Rashford makes a better decision, you got a great chance of scoring. Cavani's there. You got Martial on one side. So all in all, I don't think it's a bad point for either side. If I'm being honest.
I think for me, the situation between, you know, this is hard for me to say, but with my football head on. When you're looking at Liverpool and the current situation that they're in, it's a situation where I personally think they lined up to win that game. You know, with their mentality, I think while they would have taken a point, they would have been disappointed that they didn't win the game. Whereas I think with us, it was a different scenario where we're coming off of some disappointing seasons. We would have taken the point, regardless of the position that we're in. And it's about getting yourself out of that mentality that we've been spoilt for the last, I know we haven't won a league for maybe 7-8 years, but in regards to the actual, the normal thought process that United fan goes through is that win everything, and that's kind of what we've been used to. And I think that with that in mind, that Liverpool would have actually, they would have been going for the win, if you ask me.
Just one thing. Are you talking about the team? I'm talking about a player.
Go on.
I want to bring up a player situation.
I was going to touch on the Rashford situation.
Not even Rashford, because listen, we all know what Rashford is about, right? Off the pitch, showing some great character, some great leadership in terms of what he's doing campaign-wise. We all know he's lacking composure. It's not changed. Lacking composure sometimes it's not great, right? But my thing is, I want to talk about what Kes posted in our group chat about, as Pana would call him, Scamanders, because this guy,
But before you move on, when Pana says Scamanders, he took heat, and you know what? I thought rightly so. But
and listen, I think Fernandes is looking like a great player. I need a bit more from him, but great player, right? He ain't performing against the top teams. And listen, I know some people want to go, oh, Arsenal, them man ain't top team, or the Big Six, Listen, the Big Six are always going to be the Big Six. Yeah, don't start scrambling for your man, yeah? He ain't performing against their teams. So for me, he's there getting vexed, talking to the manager like this and that. Listen, big man, sack yourself, you shit. Sit down.
I understand what you're saying.
And then Lucasade, recovery juice.
Listen, again, as a Man United fan, I don't want to see any of our players disrespecting our manager like that, alright? But one thing I will say is, and I think I'm going to throw some smoke on your team, because I don't think you're in a situation where or it's been a while since you've had a situation where you've had this scenario on your hands in regards to you've been in a position where you're being successful and you've got a couple of players that are hungry. I don't think that was disrespect that he was doing. I think it was frustration. Because he's had a poor game in regards to his usual standard, and he doesn't want to come off because he's that type of player. I'll bring you back to Rooney, Ronaldo. You can pick one. Cantona. Excuse me. Hold on 1 second. But the thing is, it's still that lack of respect against their manager. Talking about one of the best managers in the world.
What's that lack of respect?
There's a difference between getting hold of and talking to yourself and be like, whatever. And then talking to the manager. How many men are talking to Fergie and when they're coming up and saying da.
I agree. I mean, in regards to, you don't know what happened off the pitch, so we can't talk about talking because he didn't talk. No one said anything to anyone. He's talking about a manager that's in his early time in his career. Right? We're not talking about Ferguson. I simply use the example that you've got these great players that are frustrated coming off. Right? It's not a scenario that a lot of or some teams have the problem with, because I'll give an example. I agree with what you're saying. I don't want to see it in my team. However, in our current situation and with what Fernandes brings to our team, regardless against the top teams in general, right? I'll give him a benefit of the doubt. Hear me out. When I see a man like Xhaka doing what he did, captain of the team.
My thing is that if I respect you, and no matter what your career's in its infancy, I know that cameras are on me. Everything I do is getting picked up. If I want to have a word with you or whatever about coming off the pitch, I'm frustrated, I'll do it in the dressing room away. I'm not coming to the pitch and directing my chat.
Listen, but you're talking about the heat of the moment scenario. You can't put yourself in a situation that they're in. They're under such immense pressure. And the thing is as well with him, he's used to performing. He's probably just frustrated. I've been there myself. I've been in a situation where I know what I can. No, not Man United, but I've played rugby and I know I've not performed and I've got taken off early and I'm pissed. I'm upset.
I've been there where I've not performed my homework. I'm trying to tell my dad by himself. I held team boxing. You know what I'm saying? So
it's a bit different, though, isn't it? It's a bit different. What I'm simply saying is though, is that I feel like whether it's a bias, whether it's a biased or not, right? If Aubameyang gets subbed off early and he starts kicking off, you're giving him the benefit of the doubt. Right?
Do you know what? I'm saying there's no consequence because Fernandes is, regardless, he's guaranteed starting every.
He's our best player. He's our best player.
Do you know what it is though? I don't mind. Like, to be fair, I hear your opinion, and to be fair, it's not that I disagree or don't disagree. It's probably parts that I do agree with and disagree with. But when people like Ozil used to get heat for it, not performing, performing not the game. Listen, it happens, innit? It happens. Well, actually, that's my point. I was actually going to gun someone as well.
Well, I'll pick on what I think you're saying. Is that Ozil got heat for not performing in the big games, and he got a lot of heat for that, no matter, regardless of the quality he provided in other games. But Fernandes, who we know hasn't performed against the original Big Six, but no one's even glimpsed at that. You know what I'm saying?
That was it. That was it. Sorry, just quickly.
Go on.
I'll tell you what happened post game in the change room. Fernandes went to Oli and gone, big man, don't ever do that again, yeah?
Fernandes told him, I went there.
He said, big man, he said, hey, don't ever embarrass me like that again. Yeah?
Don't ever
do that again.
Try to pull me off. Fernandes, do you know my name? What? Say my name.
Big boss.
Say my name. Sorry, Bruno. No, it's Bruno Fernandes, and that's your name, mate.
Big boss Bruno, fam.
Say my name one more time. Bruno Fernandes, don't ever sub me off again in your life. Watch Fernandes, yeah? Starting next 5 games, 90 minutes. Yeah, guaranteed.
Let me pull you man out of dream world, yeah? That might be what goes on. No. You gotta put some respect on my club, bro, because we're top of the league right now. So this ain't no circus like Arsenal.
Asterisk for now. Yeah,
for now, but we're up and about.
Yeah.
You know, we're not out of the top 10, so that's a bonus.
Listen. I want to cut short, so we're gonna wrap it up. But tell me,
My simple point is that why I don't agree with it in these high pressure scenarios where you've got, you know, athletes that are used to performing at a certain level across any sport, you're gonna get a little bit of you know, them being pissed off and not wanting to come off.
100.
People buy themselves opportunities to do that. There's certain men that do it and don't have the right to do so, and I use Xhaka as an example. I'd argue that Ozil was up there, but for me, I don't think you can compare Ozil and Fernandes because one, Ozil's been in the Premier League for how long? Fernandes hasn't, and also as well, look at how Ozil's career ended up. I can't foresee Fernandes.
Yet,
No, I mean Arsenal.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of stories out right now that it's kind of his legacy has kind of been. It's got a bit of a shadow over it now over how things have gone, and whether that's how the club have handled it or not. I don't see Fernandes' career going like that, and I feel like you have to give people the benefit of the doubt.
What I say, Flash, I agree with you in that sense. That I tell you what, Fernandes has been phenomenal for you, man. And before we move on, my last point on that is there's no issue with him showing his annoyance at coming off or his frustration in the bad game.
Yeah.
I get that. But my thing is, when I'm seeing it directed at the bench, I'm seeing that as a challenge of authority. If you come off here, and I see man come off and they're like, dissent, whatever, as they walk off, you can do that. But I'm looking at my man here, the camera's here, and he's looking at the bench and telling them, man, he said in social, listen, big man, not me, you trying to shit, wait till later. But I'm speculating. I'm sorry.
Wait till Fergie.
Okay, on that point there.
We're moving on.
No. Last point. I just want to say this. Yeah. You think my man's been brought up under Fergie, yeah? And because you're saying that scenario, there's another scenario where he turns around and goes, listen, this is my team. Don't ever do that again.
So why are you lying to yourself? Why are you lying to yourself?
Why am I lying? There's a scenario that happens.
I'll tell you why. Because Ole, yeah, we get a little alliteration, as they call it, yeah? Solskjaer, sub, sideman. We move.
Anyway. I don't know how many of you, man, listening to that. Absolute nonsense. Look at the title. Look at the importance of the goals.
Jeez. Listen.
Get out of it. Even try and correct yourself for that. You know what? You guys, you man had one of them, yeah? In Giroud, and you let him go. You have him back tomorrow, innit?
I mean, what are you upset for?
I mean,
talking smack.
Listen, Giroud will stop for your teeth.
Listen, I'm trying to be over here and be humble.
If Giroud was in,
listen, I'm being humble, right?
No, but if
we're sitting in the top of the league.
Can I be real? If Giroud was in Fergie's team, he would have had 6 Premier League titles. When he comes on Sky Sports when he's older, yeah, 6 Premier League titles, 2 Champions League. But Giroud could have won. He was there.
How many important goals did he score for you?
Oh, listen.
So I'm saying, if Giroud was in Fergie's team, yeah,
right,
he would have been one of the most decorated strikers in history. Let's be real.
You mean if he was at a successful club?
Well, yeah, we wasn't successful at the time. Yeah, no, I'll take that. I'll take that one.
Right, cool.
Yeah, but we move.
I love to see it, man. I love to see them upset.
Yeah, trust.
It's not about being upset. Listen, I'm happy.
We move.
Yeah, just put some respect on my team's name.
We move. Well, moving on from the board draw to, you know, a team that can score goals.
A real striker.
Arsenal 3, Newcastle 0. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'll be real. For me, Newcastle are a terrible side. So, I'm not here singing from the hilltops and whatever. And also, let's be real, when you're 11th, you're not in the hilltops. You're singing from the basement.
You're in the valleys.
Yeah, you're in the valleys.
You're in the trenches.
We're in the trenches. So I can't sing too tough. All I want to say on this game is, I said from the start of the game, for me personally, if Arsenal or Arsenal, it's got to be 3-4-0. Because when I saw Newcastle set up with, hear me.
Yeah.
When I saw Newcastle set up with 4 strikers on the pitch,
Trust me.
Joe Linton, Almiron, Carroll, and Wilson. They try to start all their man. Yeah. That means you're vacating the midfield. So if you've got any man that can pass in midfield, yeah, because Newcastle, they're not good enough to dominate in the attack.
Would you argue that that's because they know it's Arsenal and there's an opportunity for them to?
I'd argue.
They're not doing that against other teams.
They're not. I'd argue that they've lost to Sheffield United, a team that had 2 points prior to that game, and it was reactionary. So I thought that they come into it in a case of it can't get much worse than losing to the team on 2 points. So we're going to go for this one. Because Steve Bruce actually said something before the game, which was, "I'm doing it my way." Because basically the players, he wanted to come in on a 4-4-2 team when he came in, but Benitez was on a more defensive system and the players felt more comfortable with. And he was like, after that game lost against Sheffield United, he was like, "Listen, I'm doing it my way." Now for me, I look at it, and if I'm looking at Steve Bruce tactically, I'm thinking that you're lining up before. On paper, it looks like you're being more Frankfurt aggressive. Yeah. But in reality, it's suicide. I think it's suicide.
So on that note, I agree with what you're saying. It's not suicide though. It's not clear cut as that. It's a gamble, right? That these clubs that are struggling.
Gamble.
Oh, well, of course it is. No, hear me out.
So you can gamble against Sheffield United, but you're going to gamble against Arsenal.
Bro, trust me.
So here's the difference. Here's the difference. The style of play that Arsenal play. Arsenal are going to go to Newcastle and play the same style of football that they play against almost everyone else that they play against, right? Because they've got players in their team that should be of a quality that they dictate how the play goes, Unless they're playing against one of the top 3 or 4 teams that, you know, you can be a bit more tactical, right? Sheffield United are not going to come to Newcastle, or even if it was away, and play attacking football. They're going to play that low block that they do against everyone else, right? And try and counter or pick up a set piece, something like that. Now, when Arsenal come to your side, a team like Newcastle, you're going to look at the situation and go, they're going to play the exact same way they do against Man United and against Liverpool, right? So what we're going to do is, if we're expected to lose this game, so what we're going to do is we're going to put all our top players out and try and play to win, because they know that Arsenal are in a situation where they're there to be got.
They are in this, but they're there to be got, but in the right way. Because if you're Newcastle and you're up against Arsenal, you know they're not in the greatest of form. In fact, they are in decent form, the best form of the season. However, I give you a point that they're not in the greatest of spells, and they are there to be got at, right? My thing is this: if you analyse realistically the players you've got, in comparison to the players that Arsenal have got, you're never going to try and match them up, regardless of position in the table, whatever. No, let's be real.
No.
I'm sorry.
I agree.
Newcastle are a terrible
But
team.
if you're talking about like from a form point of view, I'd argue that that's why they're there to be got.
I get it.
None of your players are performing right now.
You're gassing, fam.
You've got 2 players that are your best players.
You went from 0 to 2. You went from 0 to 2.
Why?
That's 2 more than the 0 you just said 10 seconds ago.
What do you mean?
You said you have no players performing right now.
So hold on a second. Other than Xhaka, not Xhaka. Yeah, it's Saka. Sorry.
Listen, put some respect on his name.
All right.
You start for United, fam. Put some respect on his name.
And then it'll road man that's playing attacking mid.
Smith Lowe.
Listen. Other than them 2, that they're just playing above what they're expected of because they're young players, right? Name me a player in your team that's performing to the standard that they should be. Name me a player.
Let me respond.
Okay, he's been decent. Is he playing like he should be playing? Like he's playing for Atletico or the like?
I hear your point.
So what I'm saying is that based on how they should be playing.
Flash.
Are you going to tell me? I thought the answer was none.
I'll give you my opinion. No, your answer was none.
So how many?
So in my opinion, when it comes to Newcastle, I'll explain Newcastle first. They ain't got the right to come at Arsenal. They ain't got the right. I'll tell you why. They got the right. Because your form's terrible. You just lost to Sheffield United. You already couldn't score against the Arsenal that was woeful against you in the FA Cup, right? Hold on. And then you're disrespecting us by playing Joe Linton left midfield. Don't do them things, No, listen, don't do them things. I'm talking about Arsenal now, You talk about 2 guys that are overperforming. We're talking about Saka, who's now got England caps, as a teenager.
Rated,
right?
Big player.
Cool. We're talking about a Smith Rowe.
Jury's out and played well.
He's playing well.
Yep.
He's playing well right now, right? So we can't just talk about it. Listen, it might just be beginner's luck or whatnot. But if he gets consistency, But you're looking at him potentially going to Euros because hold on, if Mason Mount can get in, from what I've seen from 6 games of Smith Rowe, I'd rather him over Mason Mount.
I wouldn't go that far because it's a congested place.
Hold on.
What I want from you though, I just want to hear another player other than them two.
Kieran Tierney. Listen, Kieran. He's playing on left back, fam.
What's he
He'll start for your team.
Wait, Kieran Tierney.
He'll start for your team.
Carry on.
Hold on, wait. What about Kieran Tierney?
He'll start for his team, fam.
I'm asking. What I've asked you, right, is for a player that is playing at the standard.
Kieran Tierney.
If he's not, do you know what? I rate Kieran Tierney. I think he's a good player potentially. I don't think he's playing to the levels that he could play. I think what you're looking at is that he's having to defend a lot and he's doing a good job.
No, he's doing a lot going forward.
What I'm saying is though, okay, so are you saying that right? That we're seeing the best from Kieran Tierney?
No, but he's young.
No, but here's the thing.
He's not that young.
No,
he's
young.
He's young. He's like 24.
You better try to steal Luke.
Is that young?
Luke Shaw, fam.
Luke Shaw's been there for years.
So ask me about Luke Shaw then. I'm not having Luke Shaw.
He was playing at
24 is not young in the Premier League.
No, he's not.
Saka's young.
No, Saka's young. But hold on.
Smith Lowe is young.
But in terms of
but these men ain't young. So you might be 24, 25 and be like,
when we say young, he's 23 first of all. And when we say young,
if you ain't 20, you're not young.
Yeah, but listen.
If you're not 20, you're not young.
Marcus Rashford's not young. No, because I don't want to talk. When this podcast, you've got to share the speech. Yeah? You can't come on and get angry.
I'm not angry, bro.
It's
talk facts, isn't it?
It's talk real. But here's my thing. Kieran Tierney has come from playing for his hometown club Celtic in a league that's not worthy of being competitive with League One. Let's be real. Celtic and Rangers in Scotland are a level above the teams.
They're a championship team at best.
Thank you.
Yeah, agreed.
But Kieran Tierney he's jumped up levels to come to Arsenal. And for me, in an Arsenal team, because not only to come to Arsenal, he comes to an Arsenal that are underperforming, under a lot of pressure. And do you know what I've seen from Kieran Tierney? As well as quality, I've seen character.
Passion.
Yeah, I've seen character. And what I love about Tierney, is his performances for me is consistent. You know what you're getting from Tierney. He's reliable, dependable. Yeah, all the things when you look at his Scottish counterpart Robertson, who's captain of Scotland, all the qualities in Robertson, I see in Tierney. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I see it in Tierney. So
different teams, but maybe in different teams.
And for me, that's more credit to Tierney because he's playing a shitter team than Robertson.
Yeah.
And he's doing his thing. So my thing is, you're right. You got a great point. Arsenal haven't got many players at the minute that you can pin your hat on and say, listen, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. The youngsters are doing what they're doing, but all the big players are underperforming. Partey is the one that I think would be, but he's been injured.
He looked a bit ropes the other day though, I'm not going to lie.
He's not playing.
I know he's not played, but for a player that... what I'm saying is, right, and I'll take the Tierney point, right, but what left back do you know that's won some in the league? Or progress the team on? They can have a consistent game. Bro, look at them. Don't disrespect Liverpool like that. Bro, but what I'm saying is though is that you're not comparing Tierney and Robertson because they're a million miles apart, bro. They're a million miles apart.
Maybe 100. Maybe 100.
Bro, maybe 100. They're a million miles. They're different. They're different. I'm not knocking. I'm not knocking.
Tierney's the one guy. Yeah.
Tierney's a great player.
I will pick him. Listen. Any other Arsenal player, you could pick any other man. Xhaka, all them man. Yeah.
Okay. Hear me out.
Other than Smith Rowe, Saka, and Tierney. Possibly Leonard's been alright, yeah. They're the four that you see me picked up, yeah. I'm pinning my hat on them. You see any other man, yeah. You can call them out, yeah. I'll say, listen, you got a point, big man. I hear you. Tierney, nah, go on.
What I'm simply saying is, right, is that in the positions that matter in regards to winning games, right?
Every position matters.
No, it does. But what I'm saying is that your left back being exceptionally good, right, isn't going to win or lose you a game. It might help you in regards to... So, for example, it might stop a goal.
So why did you sign Evra? If left back's not that important, why didn't you play one of the Resi in left back? Why did you sign Evra?
Okay, easy win. Firstly, talking about an era where our back line was arguably the best back line in the world, right? So you're not talking about one player. Listen to what I'm saying. The simple point I'm making is that I'm not knocking Tierney. I'm not putting shade on him, right? What I'm simply saying is that him playing well and Aubameyang and Lacazette being average, it contradicts itself. No, it was because I asked. Okay, let me ask my original question then. I'll give you Tierney, right, and I'll concede that, right. Outside of Saka and Smith Lowe, who have played well, but there is an element of...
Bro, you're right.
Listen to me. They've played well, right? But there's an element of the fact that because they're young and it's not expected of them, they're getting a little bit more leeway. But listen, I'll rate them, especially Saka. I think he's special, right? what I'm saying is, I'll give you Tierney.
Yeah.
Outside of those 3 players, yeah. And bear in mind, how much you spend on Tierney?
20 mil.
20.
Bargain.
But that's bargain.
Great player, and I said this before the podcast about the quality in picking up players from the Championship, and we'll put Celtic in there because that's all they're ever going to be, right?
Yeah.
And then becoming players that are worth much more, right? Give you that. Great signing, right?
Yeah.
Outside of those players, and especially looking at the players that you spent big money on.
Yeah. Nothing, because what you're adding there is Pepe. And that's
No, I'm not. Listen, he's
Listen,
in the list, bro.
Also, you
but
got
he's not the only
listen,
one.
You got to remember, yeah. Listen, we can all talk about Aubameyang's form and all stuff like that, right? We spoke about being uncreative. We spoke that. We've hit that from episodes before.
Yeah.
No, but my point is then, yeah. And I don't even want to take back to United. If you want to talk about top performers, outside Fernandes, who's top performing, big man?
Listen,
no, who's top performing?
We're top of the league, bro. So
no, who's top performing?
We're top of the league.
No, but hold on. Can I intervene?
As a whole, the team's performing top of the league.
Let me intervene.
So has Fernandes got us top of the league?
Yes.
Of course he has.
Hold on. Let me intervene. Just Flash. Obviously, I'll be real. Flash, you've been very intellectual and your point's on point there. But the question he just asked there, he didn't answer.
Okay, I'll answer it.
You answered. He asked.
The same question
you posed to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is then is that
No.
I'll answer it. Okay, I'll answer it. So are you saying to me then that in the last
No. Answer the question. Answer the question. I want to hear names. When you answer it, I said Kieran Tinley.
Okay.
You can't say a name, fam. Because you got McShit and
hold on.
Englishman Fred in the
firstly, Fred and McTominay have been quality, mate. What are you talking about? Bro, they've been quality. They've been quality. Bro, they're top of the league, bro. They're top of the league.
Ask the question.
In the same breath as saying Ozil hasn't performed,
Bro, you can't put Ozil in the conversation. He's not playing. What I'm simply saying to you is that in our current, if you look at our last 4 or 5 games, right, which have got us to the top, right? Fernandes has played well, right? McTominay's played well, and Fred's played well.
But Flash, in your last 3 games, and
Pogba's played well.
I'll agree, but in your last 3 games, you sat deeper than flipping Stoke.
But
honestly, big man saying they sat so deep, it's unreal. So them man, they're saying alright.
But this comes down to a matter of style, right? And I would argue that if you ask any Arsenal fan right now, would they play the same way United have and get the results that they've got? They would do it. You're saying to me then that you would sacrifice a little bit of your style that you know for. Bear in mind, Man United are known for being that counter-attacking side. Yeah. They play 3 up top and they don't defend, right? They rely on the rest of the team. We're sacrificing an element of our identity to perform.
I agree.
So what I'm saying to you is that you're telling me that you ask any Arsenal fan that they go, do you know what, we're happy playing okay football. Because that's been your problem in the last 10 years.
I was thinking, if I had 2 star midfielders, I'm actually trying to win the league for. Say no more.
Listen.
So hold on. So who's the star midfielders then?
Say no more.
Who's the star midfielders?
Listen.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you a question. Who's the star midfielders?
You're getting aggressive.
Yeah. What I say, listen. Before we move, which we do need to do.
There's a reason why we're top and you're not.
And do you know what? We'll move on that point because there clearly is, isn't it? And the reason is,
you know Tyson knocking out Deontay Flash over there, hear me?
Listen.
We all know.
Listen. We move.
I am Deontay, right?